Okay, I'm in the shop. I've got these parts here ready to go. I'm about to do this last one here. And I figured I'd talk about some of the details and why I do what I do and how I do it. I'm not telling you to do it this way. It's just how I've been doing it. Number one thing is a story pole. So I like to mark everything on this. I just transfer it around. I don't have to pull out the tape measure anymore. This happens to be the bottom of this column, top's up here. When I mark for my cleats, for my shelves, I mark them in two spots. And a lot of people say, well, you just mark it one spot and then use a square. But the thing is sometimes something could be off with the square. You just might not notice it at the time. So this way, when I go ahead and try to lay my line out, I can double check on my points. Point to point, I'm going across both arrows. Just makes me feel safer. I'll knock these out of the way. So this project, it's funny. A lot of the time when you do a project, you gotta pack everything up and drive to a location. You get to a location, you pull up as close as you can in somebody's driveway to make the unloading easy, all of that. But in this case, the job happens to be right across the street, and you think, well, that's easy. Kind of not really. On the one hand, I don't necessarily have to load the van up, but then you got to carry everything over there. That's no fun. So, also I figured I would mention on this, while I'm doing this, just talk about cost of things and estimating stuff. All I do is custom work, really. I mean, once in a while I get some kind of standard project. It's rare. Most of what I do is some custom project, and everything I do is different. I never do the same thing twice, so it's hard to give you a definite number. In this case, these are two built-ins. If I do a wall of built-ins, anywhere from 10 to 15 feet or so, in poplar. When I'm done, it's ready to be finished. I don't normally do the finish. You're looking at about $7,000 to $10,000 to do that. And if there's doors or drawers, then the numbers can go up from there. And that's installed and pretty much ready to be finished. Your painter, your finish guy might have to do a little touch up here and there, but for the most part, I've got this sanded out, and things are filled and all that good stuff. So, but every time you go and look at a job, it's a little bit different. And sometimes I'm working off of somebody else's drawings. I don't know where they're coming from on it. And a lot of the times I have to explain that to the client and say, just tell me what your budget is, and I'll tell you how close to what you want I can actually get. Sometimes I can do it. It's not a problem. And the people that have seen my work and they know what I can do and accomplish, a lot of times they just want to kind of throw the money at you just to kind of get it done. Okay, one of the things you always want to do is put a mark on the side of the line you got to go to. So this happens to be the bottom of the column. Let me make sure that I'm going to go to the bottom of the line on every one of these. Now I'm not gluing these cleats. Typically I would glue the cleats. The reason I'm not gluing these cleats is because in the future I want this client or anyone else to be able to come in here and adjust the shelves if they want to. Now these pins are clearly not going to hold the shelf up. I'm just pinning these in place. I'm going to come back, I'm going to pre-drill, and I'm going to put screws in. The screws will hold the weight, no problem. And I'll get to that for you in a second. As I was saying, I was just tacking these in, and now the next step is to put the screws in. Now the shelves, the way these shelves are going to work is they have a mortise on the ends that hang over the cleat. You can't really see, I guess, from that angle. I'll show it to you in a minute, but basically it's not going to go this way, it goes the other way. So the way this is designed is I have this lip here. I had a thicken the fronts of these up to be 1 3/4 across. This is matching the floating shelves that are on the other side of the wall on the other end of the room. And because I have this lip, and I wanted these cleats to be substantial enough to do the job, I matched this, which is a 1/2 inch, with this here. Now, you can see a nail there, but you won't because it goes the other way. I'm just showing you. So this way, when you look at the shelving, you really shouldn't see the underside of these too much. The higher shelves you may, but I wanted that to look correct here. I think that looks real sharp. And again, you really won't notice it too much because there's going to be books in here. Now, when I go to put the screws in, as I did with these nails, I don't want to see the screws, right? There's a 1/2 inch of this hanging below, and I know the thickness of that shelf that hangs over is 5/8 of an inch. So what I'm going to do is, I'm just going to take a little mark here, put it on the bottom one so there's no pencil lines visible. There's my 5/8 mark. I'm going to take the head of a screw here, and I'm going to place it so that I know the screw won't be seen. I'm going to arbitrarily, I'm just going to kind of pick the center of that screw. I'm going to set this to that mark, and I'm just going to go ahead and draw a line straight across here on all these cleats. And this way, when I go to put the screws in, or pre-drill for the screws and put the screws in, I'm golden. I know that I don't have to worry about the possibility of those screw heads being seen underneath the shelf. Because they'll be hidden by the shelf, right? Kind of show you what that looks like here. I like to get to here and then just cinch it tight. If you go in too fast, you screw through your substrate here, and then these screws don't really do their job as well. And that's good. I'm going to do the rest of those. There's 6 of these, and then I'll get to the little pyramids for you. Okay, I'll show you a couple different angles of this and how things work. There's some layout lines here you probably can't see. I made these pyramids here, and these were made when I did the last job. I mean, I figured out how to do them then. I had to make a jig, and they're a little dangerous to make, as you can imagine, but these are matching the details that are on a piece of furniture that the client pulled out of a house. And so I'm matching the details, but I am not matching the layout, because there are certain details on the mantle that just don't make sense to try to duplicate on a shelving unit. There's certain moldings in the way that would just be in the way. So I'm just dabbing a little glue on here, and I'm going to line up the 4 points with the 4 lines, pretty close anyhow initially. And then I'm just going to rotate this a little bit. Move it up and down, side to side, applying pressure. That's spreading the glue out, it's forcing the glue into the pores, and this Type On 2 glue is real strong stuff. In 20 minutes it's golden, but right now it's not going to move now at all. Unless you really try to move it, which we don't want to do. And that's how easy that is. Now that looks real easy, but making these and figure out, I'll explain where my layout is on this in a second. But when the shelf goes on here, okay, I think you can probably see this in the camera if I show it to you now. When this shelf is on, the distance from the top of this shelf to the center mimics the bottom. It's off-center height-wise, which I wanted on purpose. The top comes, there's a little lip that hangs down. I wanted this noticeably off-center for visual interest. And also, there's a molding on the mantle. We're not duplicating here, but if the client wanted to, or somebody else, there's a 3/4 round that comes in right around here. If they wanted to add that later, you can. Or even if this client wants me to add it for some reason, that's something you can do. It doesn't make sense because you'd have to wrap it from here and over, and the books would hit that, and it just wouldn't look right. But this distance is matching the lower, and how that's determined I'll explain to you next. Alright, so let's get this one on. Same as before, a little dab of glue. You want to be careful that it doesn't take much. You don't want to put too much on here because it'll squeeze out and you've got a lot of cleanup to do. There we go, that's perfect. Perfect is good enough, as they say. Yep. That's good, that's not going to go anywhere. So again, what I did here was, when this shelf is placed, from the top of the shelf to here, that's center. So visually, when you kind of see this with your eye when it's placed, it'll just look correct. It'll look well balanced here. So that dimension is what I repeated up top there. We've got to put some triangles or pyramids on the outside of this real quick, and then we'll do a little talking. Show you guys some cool stuff. All right, so these are in place. I just wanted to say a couple things about what I'm doing and how I'm doing it, and just a little something about design, aesthetic, matching up with old built-in stuff. I've done I've really educated myself when it comes to building furniture over the years, to the point where I've sought out furniture in museums, and I'll get right up close. I've been told to step back and all that, because I get real close to things to look at them. And when you go and look at pieces in museums, especially pieces that are heavily veneered, Biedermeier pieces, I've done some Biedermeier work in the past, you'd be amazed at how imperfect these things really are. And today, design tends to be more simplified, and you can get a lot of machine cuts done and CNC machining and all that. And the issue with doing things that precise is, if something is off, it jumps out at you. That's the thing. So adding these little details, like for instance, I'm matching an old mantle. If you were to put a tape measure on that mantle and try to measure out all those parts, you'd give yourself a headache, right? Because nothing is perfect. But when you step back and you look at it, it's very pleasing to the eye, and that's what matters. So although I do try to get as precise as possible with my work, there's a happy medium there. There's certain things I eyeball, a lot of things I don't worry about, because I know in the end, when it's all done and the finish is on it, aesthetically, it's going to be pleasing to the eye. And I've done a lot of little things, and I've put a ton of thought into it to achieve that. So it's a thing. It's just something to think about. Yeah. So I enjoy doing this. It's pretty fun. I'm a little burnt out on it. I don't get enough of this sort of work. I'm going to pause this for a sec while the plane goes by. So yeah, not a plane, a helicopter, as usual. Yeah, that's it. Tomorrow I should start installing this. I've got to sand out the toe kicks, but that's about it. And I got to make some cleats, I guess. And I'm about to go to lunch, so that's what's happening. When I install this, I've got another little smaller job to do up the road here. I've got to install a exterior door, entry door for a garage, and then later this month, mid-month or so, supposed to go and start being like the foreman, carpenter on a major project here in Hancock Park. So I'll be busy for a while doing this stuff. You won't probably see a lot of van stuff. Between now and then, depending on how much time I have, I might try to put the console on top of the Astro van. But I just thought some of you would enjoy this. I get asked a lot of questions. Some of you want a shop tour. Somebody wanted something on hand-cut dovetails. I can do hand-cut dovetails. I haven't done them in a long time. Let me put it to you like this. I've dated women that weren't even born yet the last time I did hand-cut dovetails. But the one thing I do, and I realize I just said do, is butterfly mortises. That's something I try to put in most of my hardwood pieces of furniture. And what I will do is a video on that start to finish. because now I know how to pause the camera, and I can make little videos and kind of edit them together basically on the camera and put it out as one video. Now I know how to do that. So I'll show you how I lay out and make the actual butterfly mortises, the butterflies themselves, and how I do the whole thing. So everything, even from honing the chisels and the way I do it. And I think that'll be pretty good for you. So stay tuned for that. I know that this not a lot of interest for the woodworking. I don't expect it to get a lot of views, but there you have it. Have a great day. Be good to one another. Hancock Park, Los Angeles. I'm here.